This is the Wired Educator Podcast, episode 258. I'm your host, Kelly Croy, and I'm excited to share my interview with Greg Honchel with you today. Greg shares how educators and leaders can enhance their impact by applying awesome customer service. Yes, customer service. We talk about this awesome principle in screen time and instruction and learning and support and so much more. You're going to love this episode.
Welcome to the Wired Educator Podcast, where it's all about becoming a better educator now so you can make a greater impact and enjoy a higher quality lifestyle. And now, your host, Kelly Croy.
This is the Wired Educator Podcast, episode 258. Hey, this is the Wired Educator Podcast. I'm excited to have Greg Honchel on the show today. Greg and I met a few years back. He works for a company that our school district partnered with called IXL. And as exciting and as helpful as IXL has been to our school district, the real reason I wanted to have Greg on the podcast was he's such a genuine, authentic leader, and he really approaches customer service, leadership in a genuine, authentic way. And he has built a real relationship with me and my district on how we do business. And I really see him as an archetype for the model for other industry. I've been working in schools for 35 years, and I can probably count on half of the fingers on one hand the quality of person that I've worked with in comparison to Greg. So Greg, welcome to the show.
Kelly, thanks so much. And such a warm introduction. I really appreciate you having me here on the show, and I'm excited to spend a little bit of time talking to you and talking to you about IXL.
Yeah. Well, I knew I was going to have you on the podcast, or at least wanted to have you on the podcast, when our district did an awesome in-service. We did an in-service like it could be considered a conference in comparison to some other schools. And out of all the partnerships that our district has, you came in person and you insisted on coming to our session in person. I'm not pointing the finger at any others who zoomed in. They were very helpful as well, but that really said a lot to me. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, one of my favorite things I enjoy about my job and my role with IXL is getting to meet with people. And it certainly is great to do that virtually, but when you're face to face, when you're with them, just that back and forth conversation is always a little bit better. And you're able to pick up on body language a little bit more. So when you're presenting to them, you're able to know what's clicking with them and maybe what is not, or when it's time to throw in a cheesy joke or something like that to get their attention. So I always enjoy the chance to speak in person, and with that in service in particular, I just think about it was something I really enjoyed putting together because it was just talking about using IXL in different scenarios. So it was really enjoyable, and I had a great time working with your team that day.
Yeah, well, I'm very appreciative that it's that human touch. I guess it's teaching. You started actually as a teacher, and I love to take the Wired Educator listeners back in time to let people know what your history was into your current role. So if you would, not to be weird, but let's go back in time a little bit, Greg. And you're in school. What kind of student were you? And you went into education, and now you find yourself working for one of the top educational services in the world.
Yeah, and I certainly, as a student, or even when I first entered the workforce, I don't think I would have pictured myself being here, but I'm super grateful for the journey I had and the fact that I am where I am today. So yeah, to answer your question, I was a pretty dedicated student. I think that I was a dedicated student while also not necessarily wanting to challenge myself too much. So it was like figuring out that sweet spot of where I could get a good grade, but maybe take an honors course instead of an AP course. So I kind of laugh thinking about doing that now. So yeah, when I moved into college, I picked education, really wanted to be working with students, and I spent 2 years as a physical education teacher at at a local high school. And my joke kind of at that point is I dress like a phys ed teacher and I probably look like a student. I was this 22-year-old guy teaching these 18-year-olds. And so a lot of good memories from doing that. And after doing that for 2 years, I moved into a leadership role at a local private school. They were looking to really invest in their athletic program. And that was really their first time making that big investment in that. So I was really excited for that opportunity. And I spent 3 years there really taking this program from infancy to being something that was well established. And it was great to just get so many kids involved, not just your high school students, but elementary, middle school students. And you know that when people are a part of a team, they develop that sense of community with their school and with their classmates. So it was certainly great to do that. And then right as COVID was starting, and I mean, you probably remember March of 2020 very well. Right as everyone was transitioning to that learning from home, that's when I made a little bit of a career shift and moved into financial services, banking specifically. And that was really important with really understanding how important customer service is and how you can win people over just by looking out for them first and foremost. So I spent about 2.5 years doing that, became a manager. And then it was really cool how it kind of all came together with this opportunity to be an educational sales consultant with IXL.
That's awesome. I love all things education, and to your surprise, happiness, or dismay, you have now understood what it means to partner with Kelly Croy, because I do text, call, and email and ask questions. And Greg, every single time you respond and you're kind and you're helpful and you send resources, and I think that's great. And I really do want to talk a little bit about customer service. I love education, and I feel educators can do anything. I've had a lot of good friends transition from education to sales or other type of work for different organizations. And I think those organizations see that educators can, they're good communicators. They're organized. They show up. They make deadlines and things. And so, but I also have met a lot of people who've never been in education, who are really good at their job. And one of the first compliments I give them is, you would have been a great teacher, because
Mm-hmm.
they have those same kind of qualities. And so I think a lot of people who do what you do, there is a lot of teaching involved, and there is a lot of instruction, and certainly a lot of leadership. Now, I feel one of my jobs as director of innovation and instruction is to kind of help teachers and leaders understand what customer service is. I've never been in a business or sales, but I really feel we are here to serve. We're here to serve the students, the families, and one another. And I think that is one of the magic qualities of the school district I'm at, is we have taken on that role. And I would like you, if you could, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on what good customer service is made up of. Just tell me a little bit about what the tenets of good customer service could be, that you use at IXL to make great partnerships like you did with me, because I'm a
Yeah,
keeper.
absolutely. I think first and foremost, it really is putting the specific audience at the center and putting them front of mind. And so for us in education, that is going to be the students and really should always be the students. So anything I'm doing, I need to make sure that it's in the best interest of students and not necessarily the best interests of Greg or even of IXL. And so with that as well, I think that's where I want to put the best interests of our teachers and our administrators, because I really do. I've worked with so many teachers and administrators across the state, and I'm just regularly floored by how invested they are in their students and seeing growth and success for their students. So when I think about putting them first and what is going to be a win for them, that really is kind of the paradigm that I'm working from, with everything that I do. So from there, it's really a lot of just making sure that I am doing a good job of communication. We have a wonderful customer base with IXL, and oftentimes they are our best champions and our best advocates for what our platform can do for students, for teachers, for administrators. So I want to make sure that I'm staying that I'm communicating well with them. And along with that is really thinking about we're living in similar but different worlds. And so when I am communicating things with you, I need to make sure that it's palatable, understandable for you. I'm sure you could probably give me some director of innovation and instruction jargon that is going to go over my head, but might hit with some other folks who are in similar roles. So I need to make sure that I'm not too salesy in my conversation with you. I'm
Yeah,
making
not
sure
at
that I'm
all.
putting things on your terms. That way you can be very practical with seeing where you can apply that.
Yeah.
So
I think
I think
I think
those,
that's
yeah,
yeah, I think that's a great reminder for educators who listen to this podcast and educational leaders is because in your line of work, poor communication or a miscommunication or sarcastic communication or a failure to meet a deadline or something like that, you'd lose a customer, right? Your company would suffer financially and more importantly, as you pointed out, you're impacting the lives of students as well. And I think there's a lot of emotional ties in teaching, obviously, but I do think we need to keep in front of our minds. It is a lot about customer service. It's not about being right over a parent. It's about making a difference. And I like to remind people of that. Like you can be right and that can upset the apple cart and create a lot of bad experiences for everybody. And you can go home feeling right, or you can be a difference maker. And sometimes that's not making the comment or going the extra mile. And that's why you're here today. You've always gone the extra mile for us, and I'm so appreciative of that. So I do want to talk about IXL. First of all, they're lucky to have you. And I
the-
hope some of your colleagues and supervisors hear this because right now it'd be a sad day if I got a message that said, Greg isn't going to be your rep anymore. You've been promoted. It'd be a great day for you, but it'd be a rough day for me because that's how much I enjoy our relationship. What is IXL? How does it help impact the lives of students and teachers? And what do you love about it? Big
yeah,
question.
yeah, great question. And sometimes this question is hard to answer because there's so many good things to IXL. So I'm going to give it a go here.
Okay.
To me, IXL is an online learning platform that is teacher led. So that way it can be the most impactful for students. And so what that looks like is all of IXL's components, whether it's adaptive modules that we call skills, or whether it is our diagnostic assessment or assessments that teachers create called quizzes, it's all going to run through the teacher and be a teacher centric platform to best benefit the student. So within the platform, you can work on those skills that are aligned to maybe the textbook that you're using in class or to your state standards, to your state test prep. IXL does a great job of connecting its skills to the resources that districts are already using. And within those skills, students are going to go through an adaptive practice module that really takes them from a foundational level of a very granular subject to a proficient level. Truly, because I believe, and I think a lot of us believe that practice might not make permanent, but it does, or might not make perfect, excuse me. Practice might not make perfect, but it does make permanent. So IXL is really going to give students the chance to do that. And then on the other end, with our extensive assessment suite, there's so many different options of if districts want to get more comprehensive data regarding where their students are with math and ELA, our diagnostic assessments going to be able to do that. Or maybe we're looking for some formative and summative assessment options. All of this is within IXL's platform. And I think something that really makes IXL distinct is how intuitive and user friendly it is for students, for teachers, for administrators, and how versatile the platform it is. And there's so many different ways that IXL can be used successfully, but they might look different from building to building, school to school, district to district.
Yeah, we do use IXL in all of our buildings. I believe we use all of there's like different subject matters. I think we use all of them in some capacity. And so there is a diagnostic that's taken, and Greg knows firsthand. Like I when I first talked to Greg about our partnership, although I'm the director of innovation, I don't really like kids plugged in on screens all day long. I don't think that's good education, but there is a need for intervention, enrichment, providing skills in areas that students need to practice in. And I think IXL does a great job for that. And we've actually had some fun with it. Our middle school principal, Denny Antonelli, and assistant principal, Jen Dackerman, they used one of our Jumbotron screens in the cafeteria to put the leaderboard up. And one of the things Mr. Antonelli pointed out was some of the kids that worked really hard to be at the top of that leaderboard to complete skills, they wouldn't necessarily fall into what you describe as our top students. And actually what we discovered, they didn't really have an identity anywhere else. And that's why they were able to do that. And we thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so that was like, hey, I can do that. I can get my name up there. And they really gamified it. And so the kids got a lot of good practice. And it is one of the many data points that our principals at the middle school share with us. But I do think it's a good tool. And obviously, if I didn't, we wouldn't be partnering with you. But I think it's up to the individual teacher to see how it's best used. And we've had a really good experience with it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing that story. And I think IXL, promotes a lot of agency within students where they see that they might have scored this on their diagnostic or scored this within a skill, and they want to see themselves improve, or like you mentioned with that leaderboard, that opportunity to really do something that they're proud of.
Yeah, it is amazing how many different services IXL provides. There's practice tests we're here in Ohio. There's practice tests for the Ohio State test. There's ACT practice and all sorts of other areas as well. And I just think that's kind of cool to provide that. It has some really unique applications for students. I'm wondering, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I really don't remember off the top of my head, but one of the areas of focus for the state of Ohio is, I believe they call it high quality intervention. And there's different companies working to provide that intervention, that what the state recognizes. Do you know if IXL is working on that or has met that?
Yeah, yep. When the state came out with the list a couple summers ago, IXL applied and made it on the list in terms of high quality instructional materials for reading intervention. And should the state do something like that for math here this summer, we feel very confident that we'll once again be on that list.
Well, Greg just bunted because the state has told us, I think in March or April, I think they're going to come out with the list. And so I hope to see IXL on it for math. And it looks like the future for Ohio is any student who doesn't make proficient on a state test in math will need, I think it's 3 30-minute per week intervention slots. Although we will use many different methods, if IXL makes the list, it'll be one of our tools in the toolbox. So that's great. I like the updates that IXL sends me, but I'll tell you what's more important. When Greg sees something that he thinks our district will benefit from, he has sent me personal emails and it's like, hey, and it's not like AI generated. It's like, hey, why don't you check this out? And I kind of appreciate that, it's not salesy at all. It's like, hey, I think this is you guys, and I'm like, oh, we'll definitely check it out. So I appreciate that, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. In my experience working with administrators and teachers, everybody has a lot going on all the time. So however we can keep you in the loop and in the know, so that way you know better, you do better using our platform. I'm always happy to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Now, is there anything else about IXL that you'd like to share with our listeners and now viewers, because now the Wired Educator Podcast is also on YouTube, and so people will be able to watch this. And I'm just curious, like, there's probably features I'm not even familiar with, but I know like one I thought was kind of cool. There's like a vocabulary bowl where you compete with schools around the world. Anything else like you'd want to share?
Yeah. So related to that, IXL owns a website called vocabulary.com. And IXL just always does a great job of adding value into the platform without charging our customers more. So something that we did starting this past school year was add access to vocabulary.com for all of our subscribers with IXL EL. And so that meant inclusion into the Vocabulary Bowl, which is this amazing competition that goes across the country, and then just providing secondary students really some enhanced vocabulary tools that can be related to the novels that they're reading in English class or as they're preparing for specific tests. So that really is one of the things that I love the most about IXL is always just dropping new things in. Here on the sales team, oftentimes we don't even know when it's dropping until you know as well. And there it is, no additional cost for it.
Yeah.
So that
Greg
I think
always
that
lets me know first, though.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Kelly first and then everybody else next. But I think that that reflects IXL understands that we are um in an industry in a field that is ever evolving. And so keeping the same platform, the same product year over year is not going to meet the needs of our teachers and students.
Yeah. I think that's a great point that, well, first of all, like IXL did not reach out to me to do this interview or anything like that. I am interviewing Greg because Greg is outstanding and I wanted to share him with all my listeners. But every year that we've worked with IXL, it's only gotten better. We've only gotten more features and it's only become easier to use and it's only become more helpful or we would have canceled it. So great job to you. Um, right now, Greg, there is just a lot of conversation about artificial intelligence everywhere we go, but especially in education. Some of it, great success. Some of it, some real headaches. It blends itself into screen time. As you know, in the state of Ohio, it's been limited. Schools are required to not allow phones for students during instructional time. And I know you have some thoughts about screen time. I was wondering if you could share them with our viewers a little bit. And you're also a
Yeah,
dad.
absolutely.
So this is a really big part of being a dad. Let me tell you, if it's not,
Yeah.
it will be. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And let me just give a shout out to my parents for not sticking me in front of the screen all the time growing up because it's tempting to sometimes do that as a dad, but we know that's not going to work at home. That's not going to work in the schools either. And so you might think like, what is this guy from IXL doing talking about screen time? But I actually think IXL is a great solution to reduce screen time in schools. I think IXL can do so many things that it can be, it can sometimes be that one-stop shop for schools and districts in terms of a educational technology product that they use. And then the ask of IXL to see the most growth in students does not mean that we're getting kids on IXL all day or even every day. We're asking for 2 different sessions each week, oftentimes around 15 to 20 minutes. And that's going to provide students that adaptive practice that makes their knowledge permanent with that topic that they're working on. So I love thinking that IXL can be something that is not just IXL is not going to work as well when it's a here you go, kids, have fun in class. I was meeting with a principal today and she just has such a great plan around how IXL is used, both on the diagnostic assessment side and on the skill practice side. And they reap the benefits and the rewards as a school because they're so intentional and purposeful with how IXL is used and how screen time is used in their school.
Yeah. And again, I'd like to shout out to our middle school, Port Clinton Middle School. I think they have a great plan on how they use it as well. And it's not anything like abusive screen time or anything like that. The kids see it as a challenge. And I love the prescriptive nature of, I need more in this particular skill. We can find it quickly and get some kids some extra practice on it. Even on their own time or something we call harbor time, which is kind of some free time into the day. And so it keeps the tier 1 instruction in place and everything like that. So thank you, Greg. People meet me and it doesn't matter where we're at, doesn't matter what's going on. I can turn the conversation to education like that. I live education every hour of the day, every day of the week, every week of the year. You can ask my wife. I probably drive her crazy. She's in law. She's like that in law. She's passionate about it. And Greg, you really are that way too. I love your passion for what you do. Like it's not just like I work like you are into it, man. I think that's cool. They're lucky to have you. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just find it really rewarding when I'm meeting with a either a customer or prospective customer, and understandably so. They kind of held me at a distance as a vendor for a long time, but then I use my charm or something like that, and the walls come down, and then we're just strategizing together, figuring out here's how we want to use IXL. Here's maybe an area that we're not going to have IXL touch the classroom at, and so then those are the most rewarding times for me in what I do is when we just get to have those productive strategizing conversations.
Sure. Well, Greg, I want to thank you for your time tonight to be on the podcast and help teachers level up and help, give you time to advocate for something that you feel so deeply about. And we learned a lot about customer service and education and screen time. And we're both dads and things like that. But I like to give you the last word, and then I like to have some fun questions just so we can all live a better life. It is February and it is in Ohio. The snow's not even white. So if you're listening from some other part of the world, in Ohio in February, the snow is this like gray, discolored yuckiness. And it's a tough time for educators right now. Can you give us a little words of wisdom, some guides to get us through this time of the year when, it's a little harder? Anything for us?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if this is necessarily reflective on this time of the year, but man, can't most of us or maybe all of us recall who our teachers were almost year by year. And so like that's such a strong impact on us. That's so formative really for the rest of our life. If we can remember their names, we can probably remember how they made us feel, whether they felt like they empowered us or whether they felt like they put us down. So I would just encourage and challenge our educators that every day what they're doing is so important, even if it doesn't seem like it in the moment.
It's so true. That is a great message. We do make a difference, and kids do remember us. So I am going to put you on the spot. Who's a teacher, a memorable teacher for you, and why?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to talk about my ninth grade earth history teacher, Mr. Kinlock. And the reason I bring him up is science was not my subject. It's a shame. My dad is a scientist.
Okay.
And that did not pass down to me at all. The other day, my wife was bringing up some science related thing in the conversation, how cool it was. And I was kind of like, that's okay. But Mr. Kinlock in ninth grade just first of all, was so friendly and was so helpful to a small freshman kid who was just finding his way in this new school. And then just was so present and showed up for class so well and I couldn't even tell you from like an instructional or pedagogical sense how he made earth science class so interesting for me, but I remember it. So it was very fitting that when I graduated from high school, he was the speaker at graduation.
Oh,
That was very cool.
that's great. Well, that's a great memory. You honor him well. Thanks for sharing that story with us right now. Greg, I like to wrap up the show with just some fun questions. And you don't have to spend a lot of time on them. They're kind of like the first thing that pops in your head, but it gives us some insight. I really truly believe we have something to learn from every single person that we meet. And so I have some questions that I practice and I dig in a little bit. I've changed them a little bit for this season, but my go-to is, what's one of the most influential books that you've read in your lifetime and why? And that's a big question, but I was an English teacher and I think books have the potential to change lives.
Yeah. I'm sure there is a fiction book out there that was very informative or was very foundational for me, but I'm going to talk about a nonfiction book. It was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And habit number 1 is be proactive. And it's so easy, especially in February, to be down on yourself and woe is me and life is hard, especially as a teacher when you're you got some rowdy middle schoolers or something like that. So it was just it was so impactful for me to think about. I have the ability to act on my situation rather than let my situation act on me. That is within my control and my capability.
Yeah. That's a Stephen Covey book. I did read it, but I fear, Greg, I read it too early in life and I need to go back and reread it. I remember Synergy was one of them. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't remember what Synergy even is, but I'll have to revisit that. All right, very good. Unfortunately for you, I sometimes message you after hours, and you seem to be a person who is very organized and has really good systems and coping skills in place. And so I'd like to ask you this big question. What's a practice that you have in your life as a man who goes to work every day, who's raising a family, and I don't even know the interests that you have? What are some systems, habits, or processes you have in place that just work well for you?
Yeah. So I'll go back to Stephen Covey and Seven Habits there. And it's begin with the end in mind. And I'm preaching this, and oftentimes I lose sight of it, right? We've got that quadrant of what's urgent and what's important. And it's so easy to live in that one quadrant where you're focusing on what's not urgent and not important. But I say all that to mean that as I go about my day, it is what do I want to accomplish in this day? What do I want to accomplish in this week? What's going to be the most meaningful in my job? What's going to be the most meaningful in my life?
Yeah. Well, I'm now going to have to put Stephen Covey in the show notes and a link to his book for everybody because I'm going to have to go revisit this. It seems to have paid off volumes for you. Just a couple quick more. I think I can answer this one for you, but I'm going to see how good I am. What is an unfair advantage that you feel you've had in life or you have in life? Now, this can go in a lot of different directions. Could be a tool, could be a person, however you want to go. But I really think we all have an unfair advantage over some other people, some experiences, if not other things. I'm curious what yours might be.
Yeah, that is
Deep, man.
such
I'm going deep.
yeah, you are gutting for it here. Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think I would say that like an unfair advantage, and this is a reality that our educators are aware of. I would say an unfair advantage was my upbringing, right? I was in a house that valued education. My dad has a PhD. My mom was a college graduate as well. So there was just like kind of this system in place from the beginning to give a good effort in class and to always give a good effort in what you were involved in. So I think just as you get older and you see the rest of the world, you realize that a lot of just as capable people maybe were growing up in different environments. And so that's an awesome thing about education then, is to be able to level the playing field
Yeah.
so that everybody has those opportunities for living a really high quality life.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say that when we recognize that someone doesn't have that advantage, we got to level the playing field. And sometimes it's tools, but a lot of time it's connection and care. That's great. All right, last one because it's timely. Do you use AI? If so, what's like some cool way or helpful way you use it? I imagine everybody's using it now, unless we live in caves, right? So, how does
Right.
Greg use artificial intelligence?
Yeah, yeah. Man, you're asking some questions I was really just not prepared for. So nice job.
Apologize. You can hit skip. It's okay.
No, no, I'm
Okay.
not. I'm not going to hit skip. I will. Sometimes I get a little bit nerdy with things. So we recently moved into a new house. Unfortunately, we had to replace our furnace.
Oh
So
no,
I
that's
just
not cheap.
started. What's that?
That's not cheap.
Yeah, no, it's not cheap. Yeah, that was not an expense that we were planning on, but that's okay. And so it made me think about how I'd heard on this podcast a while ago, just the role of like air conditioning, and how that impacted like the settlement of people across the
Oh
United
yeah,
States. Like there was a time where there were more people living in Arkansas than Florida, and that was in the 20th century. Like that's wild, right? So then
yeah.
I went on to AI of like, what would that do in the global perspective if there was like more equality within the HVAC sphere? and how that might impact world dynamics and stuff. And thankfully, whatever you throw at AI, it's going to throw something back at you. So
Yeah.
that shows you a little bit of my brain and how I get off on some rabbit holes there, but it was an enjoyable endeavor.
That's cool. That's really good. Well, Greg, I really can't take up any more of your time. You've really given me some insight about how we as educators and leaders can do a better job of providing great customer service. You've given us a new perspective on how to use tools to level the playing field for all kids. And you're a good human. You've given me some great advice on how to live a little bit better. So I want to thank you for giving up so much time away from your family and your work to be on the Wired Educator podcast. I will share with you, Greg, any feedback that I get on this conversation. And I thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thanks so much, Kelly. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate IXL's partnership with Port Clinton City Schools, and look forward to keeping up.
Thanks for listening to the Wired Educator podcast. Please check the show notes for links to everything mentioned in the interview and the pre-roll. If you would like your book, product, service, conference, or website mentioned or highlighted in the pre-roll, please email me at kelly@kellycroy.com. I hope you'll leave a review and share this episode out with your colleagues, friends, and family. I really enjoyed this conversation with Greg Honchel about customer service, and I hope you'll look at your work in education with that customer service mindset so we can make an impact in the lives of others. Thank you for taking time from your busy week to level up, to listen to the show, and make a difference in the lives of students. You're awesome. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Wired Educator Podcast at www.wirededucator.com.